So, me and Travis began training at the Texas Wrestling Academy, which at the time, in 2002, 2003, had a pretty solid reputation. Now, keep in mind, the Texas Wrestling Academy originally started as the Shawn Michaels Wrestling Academy. Rudy Boy Gonzalez was one of the head trainers, and once Shawn Michaels went back to the WWE full-time, he closed the school down, and Rudy Boy maintained the remnants of what the academy was. So Rudy Boy had a reputation training guys like Bryan Danielson, who's Daniel Bryan now, Spanky, Lance Cade, and a few other people. Now at this time, and at this point in time, Rudy had a pretty solid reputation for being a guy who trained people to become solid workers. So it was a no-brainer for me and Travis to want to go ahead and try to craft our work a little bit better. Now, at Rudy's school, his gym hours were open Monday through Saturday. Saturday being the optional day, but if you really wanted to get good, you were there at practice every day. And yeah, so I ended up going to training every night about 7 o'clock. Sometimes I would get there early to stretch, and we would just do practice matches and just nothing but cardio. And yeah, it put me into some definite ring shape. I got lots of experience wrestling several guys that were not only training with Rudy, but also a little bit more experienced guys. I got a lot of work, so much work that not all the matches were caught on camera. Plus, Rudy was a little bit more old school at that. He didn't really believe in people recording their matches for some reason. I don't know why, but yeah, I had several matches against a lot of talented guys like Don Juan, Chris Marvel, Fast Eddie, and I met guys such as Hernandez and Masada and a couple other workers that were coming through Rudy Boys at the time. Fun experience, lots of shenanigans. This is where I learned about wrestling ribs and learned how to pull some and kind of get some pulled on me. But it was a pretty neat time in my career. A lot of hard work. Going to training, learning the business, learn how to respect veterans, learn how to, become a solid hand. It was during this time that I kind of slowed down a little bit on my outside bookings and just focused on becoming a better wrestler myself. One of my coolest experiences throughout this time was the first time that I got to go on a road trip to NWA Wildside. Now, at the time, Rudy was taking a van of guys weekly to NWA Wildside, who was one of the biggest independent companies in the early 2000s. Guys such as AJ Styles came from there, Elix Skipper, Air Paris, a couple other guys. They were kind of like a unofficial developmental territory for WCW, and a lot of their guys would go to WWE and TNA. So it was pretty cool to get a chance to wrestle on one of those shows because they actually were syndicated throughout the country for a few years, actually. And I got to wrestle a guy named Tony Stradlin, who was actually trained by Rudy Boy. He eventually, years later, got to Florida Championship Wrestling for a WWE developmental deal. So it was cool. He was a great worker. It was a fun experience, a little nerve-wracking. I felt a little unprepared because I was still kind of new. But hey, sometimes you got to jump into the tornado to make, something work. You got to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, right? If there was one thing that could be said about this era in my wrestling career is that I learned a lot about who you could trust and who you can't trust in this business. And I've also learned that people don't stick around. Lots of workers from that era are no longer with us, for either they just retired, they passed away, or other things. So you got to make the most out of who you know and what you know, and just enjoy things. People worry about the wrong things a lot of times, and it can make you get a lot sidetracked. But I learned a lot about this era of about wrestling in this era of my career. I think I grew a lot as far as being a little bit more of a mature worker. I went from being a punk 15, 16-year-old kid who didn't know anything about the business to becoming a student of the game. Getting to go out of state to do a few wrestling bookings, the ones in Georgia, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, and so on. Wrestling in front of 5 people when you drove 10 hours to go there for free. So I grew a lot as a worker around this time.